Hello and welcome back to the Go for Two podcast. I'm Liam, your host, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host who can't stop winning, can't stop tush pushing, is of course Mr. Mugs NFL, Patrick. How are you doing after how would you describe it? A slow NFL Sunday, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's being kind, isn't it? Red Zone at 6 is primetime NFL in it, and it was when the Jets are your main red zone team at 0-7. I think that tells you a lot about the week, to be honest with you. But we've survived it, and we've got through, and we'll look to the future now. We'll never speak about week 8 ever again, apart from Aaron Glenn, of course, who won't ever forget it.
No, biggest day of Aaron Glenn's season for sure. Yesterday was a slightly weaker Sunday, as we're alluding to, so we are going to change up the format a little bit here. We'll talk very briefly at the start just about some of the games we predicted, right or wrong, predictions for against the spread. And then we're going to actually go on to a completely different topic, as you can see by the episode title. We're going to do a bit of a team draft. So we're going to have 5 rounds to start, going back and forth. Patrick's got the first pick. A, because I'm kind, and B, because he won another week of predictions. The goal is to pick good teams, basically, at the start. So you get a point if your team makes the playoff, and then you would get a point for every round they win after that. And then at the end of the year, we can add up how we did. The goal is to get teams that make the playoffs, but then teams that also have a chance of actually winning a playoff game. And then our 6th team is going to be a bad team, and basically you get a point if your team gets the first pick in the draft between us. We're going to have one bad team each. Whoever we think is going to have the worst record at the end of the season, and because Patrick gets the first
somehow one bad team just doesn't cut it, does it? We could have like 4 each this season.
Yeah. When we debate and discuss who we pick at that point, we'll talk about some of the honourable mentions because there's a few that we could have had. And I'll go first on that one. Patrick goes first on the good teams. So that's the plan for today's episode. But in terms of this week, we both had a pretty poor week at picking games. But Patrick has won 8-7, or was winning 8-7. We both picked the Chiefs minus 9.5 tonight. So it could be 9-8 or it could be 8-7, depending on the score of those games. Our differences were I had the Ravens minus 6.5. I was very worried about that pre-game when the Ravens lied about Lamar Jackson's injury status and he didn't play. I was thinking, oh my God, I've got the worst spread ever with a backup quarterback, but we somehow still covered. And the Bears won't be mentioned in either of our lists today, but they are a team we're going to keep on our radar because that was a diabolical end of game situation. We both picked the 49ers, which we didn't get. We both picked the Eagles, which we did get. We both picked the Falcons, who had by far the most embarrassing loss of the week, losing to the Dolphins with Kirk Cousins under center, which was not good. We both picked the Pats, which was good. We both picked the Bengals, which was not good. And then, as I mentioned, in the preview episode, I knew I'd regret this after one quarter. I picked the Panthers to cover the spread. Patrick picked the Bills to cover the spread and had a right result. And then we actually, both of us got all 3 late games. We all had the Cowboys, Bucks, and Colts. We all had the Broncos, Bucks, and Colts to cover the spread. So, yeah, we had a good late slate. But the early slate, maybe, you can't get those games. We'll either get one right each or we both get them wrong together. That seems to be the only option.
Yeah, the big spreads this season are causing us issues, aren't they? I think, but I was confident in Buffalo straight away when they ran a tush push, obviously, which is close to my heart. But then Andy Dalton was just doing whatever he felt like out there. And what he felt like doing was nothing good, to be honest. It was quite embarrassing, actually, I thought he was. I did tweet out at some point that it's a bad day for like a mid-30s backups. Him and Kirk Cousins were not good at all yesterday. And if you was thinking about an emergency trade somewhere, you probably put your 7th round pick back in the folder after watching those 2 guys play yesterday. I just think Carolina obviously had the impetus with Bryce, like playing pretty well, and obviously Canales has been calling good games and just all went down the drain with Andy Dalton yesterday. It looked like Carolina of 2 seasons ago when they couldn't win a game. So it was just a bit of a disaster all round for them. Hopefully Bryce can get back and bounce back. Not a good day for the backups, except Tyler Hunt.
No, yeah. Tyler Huntley had a great day after not starting, allegedly, 2 days before. But you're right, Andy Dalton was really bad. And Kirk wasn't much better either. So, yeah, I don't know who your trade options are if you want a quarterback. Is it Jameis and Russell Wilson, maybe? Are that the only 2 options, probably?
I think, like what I said, I think you keep your draft picks to yourself if you're going Russ, I think.
Yeah, potentially. Well, yeah, speaking of trades, actually, we are going to do a little bit on Thursday's episode where we talk about some of the games, obviously, from the weekend, but previewing the games for the weekend, we are going to talk about some trades as well. I think the deadline's the Tuesday following, so we'll discuss some potential trades there. So yeah, we broke down how we did last week. Again, the games aren't very good, so we're not going to touch on those. Before we move on to our team draft, there has already been a trade. Roger McCreary, the corner, has been traded from the Titans to the Rams for a 5th-round pick about half an hour ago. It's our first trade in nearly 3 weeks. Like I mentioned a minute ago, the deadline is fast approaching. I think this year there might be plenty of trades because there's not that many great teams. So I think all the good teams are going to think we've got a chance to win the Super Bowl. We mentioned the cornerback position a few times for the Rams so far this season. How do you feel about them adding Roger McCreary to try and address that if they can?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just hit the nail on the head there. I don't think there is one great outstanding team in the NFL, and all the teams that may be sat in tier 2, tier 3 will be thinking, why not us this year? Especially, I think, in the NFC feels wide open to me. So I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, if there's a lot that's going to come through. And Rams have got that started this week, haven't they? Position of need. So it's also a position of need for my team for sure. Cornerbacks. It's a good start for the Rams there.
Yeah, I think there's a few teams. That's going to be one, I think, where a position where people do target quite aggressively. And again, they're normally quite cheap as well because their position's quite volatile. So I think we'll see a few corners get traded in the next 10 days or so. So yeah, we'll see. But Roger McCreary is a good player and definitely a better player than what the Rams have been trying out at corner so far. Cool. Let's go on to our draft then. Like I mentioned, the goal here to pick teams that make the playoffs but can also win playoff games. We'll total the points at the end of the year. So let's do the good section first. And as I mentioned earlier, your first makes you have won 4 weeks in a row of our against the spread predictions. You're on a roll. Yeah. Who's your number one pick for the good team draft?
Come on. I'm going for the reigning defending Super Bowl champions. Beat the Giants yesterday, 6-2 into the bye week. The reason why I would go the Eagles first, don't think this team was as good as last year's. However, if you told me I needed to pick an NFC team that I could bet on that would win me 1 or 2 playoff games, I would go Philadelphia, because I think still Kansas City, Rams, Buccaneers will be better than any 3 wins in a row for anybody in this regular season. And Philadelphia did that first 4 weeks of the season. Or it's going to be not wrong, 2-2 in the last 4 weeks, but I think the bye week, hopefully get a little bit healthier, maybe make a little bit of move on defense, get the O-line playing a little bit better. I just trust the Eagles in the NFC more than I trust anybody else. I think yesterday was as smooth as it was going to go coming into the bye week. So I'm going to go the Eagles. And I think in our game there, if we was counting up points, I think I'd get a couple of points there, to be honest with you, by the end of the season.
Yeah, we need a forfeit or a prize for a winner here to see what we're going to do. That actually surprised me you picked the Eagles. They're going to make the playoffs. We haven't decided. We should spend more time structuring the points total if division winners are any difference to just making the playoffs. But I think that's a guaranteed point there for, again, whoever was going to pick them. But you've been a bit disappointed with them in terms of like are they going to be able to beat good teams in the playoffs? Is the last 2 weeks made you feel more confident, you think, than what you were 3 weeks ago? Because I know you were starting to get concerned that it could be one and done. But obviously by picking them first, you think they got a chance of going far now.
Yeah, I still thought that a couple of weeks ago, but I think it's just the cupboards being a little bit bare on defense is a worry. But I think adding a little piece somewhere else, getting a few injuries, they're not major injuries on defense, but they are depth pieces in the secondary. And I just trust, even though the offense looks really odd at times, I trust nobody else more in the NFC to get me a playoff win than Philadelphia. I think what it is. So just a little bit of bias in there, but I've seen it over the last 3 years with most of this roster. So it would be, I feel confident now that it's going to be difficult because Eagles come off the bye with Packers-Lions Monday and Sunday Night Football. That's going to be really difficult. Could drop both of those games. But I think we'll know a little bit more coming then after what's going to be for Philadelphia. But yeah, nobody I trust more in the NFC
Nice. I'll probably do a couple of stats for every team we talk about. So the Eagles are 11th in the entire NFL in EPA, total EPA added, which is expected points added. It's kind of the best and quick metric if you want to compare both sides of the ball, rather than let's not get too nerdy. But they have got the 9th hardest schedule remaining as well. So even though they've had some tough games already, they've actually got some tough games left as well. But again, they keep winning these close games, and the offense is starting to look better, like Patrick mentioned. Well, there we go. I really should not pick my team next for obvious reasons. We can't just always be homers, so I'm going to not, which means I'm going to give you the chance to double up on our teams. I'm going to go for the Detroit Lions for me. They're 3rd in the entire NFL in EPA added so far. They're actually 2nd on defense, which with all their injuries is incredible. Their injuries, we mentioned, I think it was after the Chiefs game. The difference this year is they've actually got a chance to come back and play. Whereas last year, all their injuries seemed to be season enders, whereas they've got a chance to come back. John Morton, the offensive coordinator, isn't Ben Johnson in terms of they're not doing as many trick plays and stuff, but the run game looks pretty good. Jared Goff's still playing really well. The offensive line's protecting well with 3 new starters this season. So for me, I think NFC, I wanted to go NFC first because what you said, I think the NFC is wide open. So I think a team like the Eagles or the Lions could win. Well, if they don't get the bye, they could win every playoff game and get to the Super Bowl, either of those teams. So I think that's a good way to get extra points. But I also think that the Lions are just very good at beating up on bad teams, and I think they'll probably do that as the season goes on. In terms of remaining strength of schedule, they're basically bang in the middle of the league. So they've got some tricky games, but then some easy home games as well. I've gone with the Lions, mate, as my first overall pick.
Yeah, just having a quick look there, I can only see one out of conference game left for Detroit, which is that feels like quite rare, to be honest. They've got a lot of division games left, and then they've got Eagles and Rams as well to come, and the Commanders as well. So it's still, it's a tricky schedule left. But like you said, it's smack bang in the middle. Are you saying that you trust that more than the Green Bay Packers? Are you expecting a division win?
Yeah, I think I do now. I think I've changed that. I think Packers might be one of my next picks, spoiler. But I think I do. I think even after last night, I don't trust the Green Bay defense enough at the moment, outside of obviously Michael Parsons, who's playing incredibly well. So no, I think I just trust the Lions a little bit more. I think I trust the coach a bit more, coach special teams a bit more, trust the defense a little bit more. But this is more in terms of playoff games. I think Dan Campbell, I trust them to win a big playoff game. As the Packers, I think I could turn up and they could either beat, just say it's the Eagles first round or whatever, whoever first round. I think the Packers could lose by 20 or win by 20. Whereas if the Lions, I think it'll be a good game, well coached on both sides of the ball, regardless. Whereas the Packers, I don't know what I'm getting as much. So that's kind of why. And the Packers have got a bit of a harder schedule as well. So.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I think both those teams are going to be intertwined now, and it's 1 and 5th seeds. To be honest, feels like I think that North should probably get, with the Eagles schedule, I think the North team, whoever wins it, should get the 1 seed, making the other team the 5th seed. So it's going to be interesting how it all shakes out. I think I agree with you, to be honest. I trust them. I trust Detroit, even if they got the 5th seed, to go on the road a couple of times and be able to get to the NFC title game as well. So, yeah, I trust that. I like the win against Tampa Bay last week. Bouncing back from the Kansas City loss, which would probably be, they'd be disappointed and probably didn't show their true selves. I thought they got bullied by Kansas City there. So it's, interesting.
Agreed. Cool. Your second pick then, Eagles Lions off the board.
Eagles Lions off the board. I've got to go over to the AFC. I'm going to let you have you if you want it. I'm going to go for the Buffalo Bills because, number one, I still think, I know we're talking playoffs here, I still think the schedule, you're going to read me the schedule out, it's nice still. I think they have some tricky games in there. I think they've had a lot of the easy games. I think they'll batter their way through most of the schedule, get that 1 seed. And I trust Buffalo to win me a couple of home playoff games. It has to be at home, I think, for me. It has to be in Buffalo. And I take my chances on them getting to the AFC Championship game in terms of that. I'd like to say that needed the bye, put in 2 terrible losses, by the way. New England look good, don't they? But then losing to Atlanta, who since have been a bit of an abomination. Like that's a really, really bad loss. I'm happy to kind of put that behind me that they fixed that and move on to this Sunday against the Chiefs and think, I think Buffalo can win that game and go on and win a 1 seed. So I do trust Buffalo to win me a couple of playoff games. Now, if you ask me to pick a Super Bowl winning team, I'm not sure that I trust them because I think the defense could get bullied by the time we get to the AFC title game on the ground because they are quite undersized on the ground. But I trust them to win me a few games.
Yeah, Ned Oliver got hurt as well yesterday. Tore his pec, I think. So they're a team that keeps getting mentioned to trade for wide receivers, but it wouldn't surprise me if the defensive side of the ball gets a bit of treatment from them on the front office to try and find some answers to how they can be a bit better on defense. Now, they played well yesterday on defense, but it was against Andy Dalton. And Dalton was terrible.
So we have to move on past that, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you're right. The schedule was the easiest in the NFL, second easiest in the NFL. It's 22nd now, so it's still towards the easy end. They've got in the next 4 or 5 games, they've got a lot of their harder games. If they beat the Chiefs next week, in terms of 1 seed, in terms of winning a division, in terms of winning at least 1 playoff game, they're probably on their way towards that just by winning next week. So I think the Bills are definitely a good shout. They're actually 5th in total EPA across both sides of the ball. Obviously very high on offense, as everyone would probably imagine. So that means so far we've had the Chiefs, Lions, and Bills, who are all in the top 5, come off the board in that stat. So teams that are definitely playing well. So yeah, I think you're there. And I think they looked a bit more dominant on the ground yesterday. Again, we'll see if that's Carolina or if that's them, but their offense looked a bit more dominant yesterday. Just what you want as a fan, the team you're playing next week, to just get confident and get ready and play their best game the week before they play you. Sounds great for Sunday night next week. But yeah, the Bills would have probably been my choice if you would have gone with the Chiefs. So there we go. That tells you where I'm going. I am going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. They have a top 10 harder schedule as well. Then the Eagles basically have the same strength difficulty. The Chiefs have got a lot of AFC West games, and the AFC West teams are playing well. So that's one of the reasons. They're actually second in the whole league in EPA added. They are second on offense, and they're top 10 in defense. So they're second overall. We're recording this again before Monday Night Football, but the offense, similar to what we said on Thursday, offense is playing a lot better. Rashid Rice looks good in his first game back. They're doing this as well with a bit of a banged-up offensive line at the moment, and they're still top 5 actually in pass rush win rate from an offensive line standpoint. So the offensive line's playing much better than last year's. The run game's still not the greatest, but has improved over the last 2 weeks. So we'll see if they can run it on Washington and the Bills, because you should be able to run it on Washington and the Bills. So if they can, then that's a good sign that they're at least average at rushing. And yeah, in terms of playoffs, it's just Mahomes, Reed, and Spags. So just expect them, even if I think the worst case for the Chiefs would be the 5th seed. Personally, that's where I think they would shake out as the worst. I think if they're the 5th seed, whoever they played in the first round, which would be the 4th seed, I think they would be heavily favoured over whoever that is. So I think they'll get to a point where they can probably have a playoff home game when reseeding happens. So, and that's worst case scenario for me. I think that Chiefs look really, really good. Just got to stay healthy, I think, on offense.
Yeah, what you just said there, I agree that Chiefs will be heavily favoured as a 5th seed. I have a feeling the 4th seed, when it shakes out, is Baltimore Ravens, the way that it's looking. I mean, that is a heavyweight battle in the first round, isn't it? I would be erring on the side of I'd like to win my division if Baltimore are going to be the 4th seed, just because when we get to the playoffs, teams with the more elite players, I would rather just not play them, and I'd rather go and play someone else. Is basically just how I feel. But I think the Chiefs, by the way, obviously I'm not biased towards the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs have got the most fun schedule now coming up. We're going Buffalo. We're going at Denver. That's a lot of fun now. We're going home to Indianapolis, which is ridiculously fun now. Then we're going Cowboys on Thanksgiving, which is great. Home to Houston, home to LA. That takes you nearly to Christmas. LA Chargers, sorry. So that is a great schedule where we're going to know then how much impending doom neutral fans are going to be feeling, right, about the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's basically one of the reasons why Mahomes is the favourite for MVP, is because all those games are going to be, there's rumours the Colts game will get moved to Sunday Night Football. The Buffalo game is the CBS main game, Josh Allen, Mahomes. that's kind of the game that tipped Josh Allen. He was second favourite for the MVP until he ran that. If you remember that fourth down play where he ran it in 30 yards to win the Buffalo the game, then he was favoured for MVP for the rest of the year. It feels like that.
Was it not Tony Romo that said the player of the year on that play? And it was like...
No, it was actually Al. It was not Al, sorry. It was, who's his partner? I've forgotten.
Nance.
Yeah, Jim Nance said that.
I knew it was that true. That was the MVP there, weren't it? Once you've had that sound bite, that's over.
Exactly, yeah. So it feels like that's why he's up there, because of some big games. But yeah, offense is trending in the right direction. Defenses as well. But in the playoffs, Spags is a different breed. So I think the defense will look a lot better in the playoffs than it will do in week 12. That's what we get. So we've got Eagles, Lions, Bills, and Chiefs off the board.
Yeah,
it's 4 of the top 5 3 of the top 5 in that category as well. And obviously, the Eagles are defending Super Bowl champions. Where are you going with your third pick off the board?
This is quite difficult now because I think you could go controversial on this pick. And what I mean is controversial by the way you look at the standings now and you think, why the hell would you pick those third? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go for the current NFC 1 seed, which is the Green Bay Packers. Now, I'm not sure how much I trust them to go into the playoffs, even if they're the 1 seed, win me 3 games and get to the Super Bowl. I really don't know. The offense feels up and down, and you shouldn't say that for a team that's just kind of lost 1 game so far this season. Probably should have beat Dallas, even though it was really, really bad decision-making at the end of the game, which is always a red flag for your playoffs as well. That's when your decision-making is your most crucial. As we all know that, don't we? They're playing really well. They look great on defense as well. Love had a great game last night against Pittsburgh. I feel like I would be foolish not to pick the current NFC 1 seed. However, like I said earlier, it's going to be 1 or 5 in the seeding, unless one of those other Lions fall off really bad through injuries. So I fancy the Lions more to be a 5th seed and do a lot of damage than I would Green Bay, to be honest. I think Green Bay need to be at home.
Yeah, Green Bay was going to be who I picked next as well. So I'm with you that they were the next team. I think it's a debate between them and Bills. And you could have gone 3 NFC teams to start with this, to be honest. We're not quite buying into them at the moment. I think it's like I don't want to repeat the preview stuff, but the whole that they convert on 3rd and 10, or it's 3rd and 1 and he throws it 10 yards and they don't convert. That is why some of their advanced metrics are so good, because they do convert these big explosive plays. But I think that's why to the naked eye, they're not as convincing, because you can have 3 drives in a row where you just don't know what's going on. And then all of a sudden the next 2 drives are 6-play, 80-yard touchdown drives. That's just, they're very boom or bust. I think the way that Parsons is playing, Josh Jacobs is playing well again. Christian Watson just got back last night as well. I think this is definitely the right pick. They're actually 4th in the NFL in EPA as well. So they're neck and neck with the Lions, who are 3rd, which is to be expected. And again, I agree with you. I think one of these 2 teams will be the 1 seed, probably, which means, you've got to buy there. So in our system, that'd be, it's like winning a playoff game. You must get that.
One thing I'll say is the scheduling for Thanksgiving this year, we thank the schedule gods, because Lions Packers at 6 p.m. is better than anything I can remember being. It's obviously Detroit is always at home at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
So I can't remember a game that it's a de facto. We're talking 6 weeks at the end of the season. Detroit need that game for the 1 seed, because Green Bay obviously won the first game, didn't they, between them in week 1. So not only is it a great game on paper, it feels like it's going to be super important as well. So that's the scheduling gods have blessed us there, because I think Chiefs Cowboys is a lot of fun as well after that. So that's a great piece of scheduling.
That'll get more viewers, ironically, as well, that game, obviously.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It was even better before, because it's Ravens-Bengals, isn't it? The night game as well.
Yeah. So we're looking.
That would have been literally the greatest 3 games.
Yeah.
That you could realistically pick without it just being Lamar, Josh, name.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, Joe Burrow's put a stop to that. We keep talking about the Lions and Packers together, and even in the strength of schedule, they're 12th and 13th, most difficult. They're neck and neck on there. They play each other. They've got the Thanksgiving game. They're actually top 3 in NFC odds. They're top 2 in 1 seed odds. I feel like these are the 2 teams we'll be talking about this season and from the NFC in terms of a rivalry, and then your team and then the team I'm about to pick maybe as the ones that could do the most damage in the playoffs. And I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Rams as my 3rd pick after the Packers. Playing really well on offense. Matt Stafford's having an incredible season, getting mentioned around MVP talk as well. Defensive line's playing really well. As we mentioned earlier, the secondary's not playing great, but they've just made that trade for McCary, and I think they'll probably make another trade. So I like them to get better on defense. They are currently 7th in the NFL in EPA, so they're top 7 team, slightly above the Eagles and Patriots and Bucks. But yeah, I think Stafford's playing well. I trust him and McVay in playoff environments to beat good teams on the road if they need to play on the road. I think at home, they're not going to have a home field advantage, but I think Stafford and McVay are the 2 guys you'd want to cope around that. I'd like McVay to be a bit better on 4th down and some of his decision making. We spoke about it. The game they lost the other day was at the 49ers game where they ran it at 4th and 1, and me and you sat on our sofa saying they're going to run it on 4th and 1, and they did. And Robert Saleh knew that as well. That's my only concern, is they're not being quite aggressive enough in those scenarios. But in the playoffs, last year they were more aggressive, so I'd expect McVay to be a bit more that way of thinking. So yeah, I think offense is great. Defense, I think, is good, and I think the defensive line will be such an issue in January that it'll make the difference for maybe the secondary being a bit weaker. So yeah, I've gone for the LA Rams. And in terms of schedule, I haven't actually checked. Yeah, they're 15th in the league, so it's not a difficult schedule. But again, it's not an easy one. So yeah. Rams.
I'll tell you, I weren't going to pick the Rams. I'm glad you picked them. I thought you was going to pick them to discuss. I think the way that the seeding falls out, like I said, with Packers Lions, really, really likely to be the 5th seed. You're probably looking at this division to be the 4th seed. And I mean, that is an absolute blockbuster. Like in the first round, if it shakes out like that, you're going Packers Rams or Lions Rams in LA. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? So it's like, for me, as an Eagles fan, I really hope it shakes out like that, because I think you're getting rid of a Super Bowl team in the wild card round. And I don't think we're going to say that in the AFC. I don't think that we are. So it's like, as a fan in that general, I think, yeah, that's great, because obviously I was there in January when the Rams pushed the Eagles all the way and could have won it on the last drive. But Puka's health is important, isn't it? Stafford obviously is playing out of his mind. You do, when it comes to the playoffs, you need your players healthy, right? So he is going to be, they need Puka. So it's just, I trust the Rams like you. And I wouldn't want to be the Lions or Packers playing them on wild card weekend, to be honest with you. I think that is such a tough matchup. I think Tampa Bay would be much, much more favourable, but they have a good record and they're in a lovely division to win some games. So it's going to be tough. I like LA. I think he's not going to get the MVP, and he's probably not going to be there. I don't know what the odds are, Connie. I know you always check stuff like that, but there's not many players in the NFL playing better than Matt Stafford.
No, I think he's 5th or 6th. Yeah. I think he could win the. I still think they could be the 1 or 2 seed. I generally do think that. I think all the division winners in the NFC are going to have a very similar record, personally.
Maybe they are.
Maybe I'm wrong, and the Packers are going to have 15 wins, but in my head, I feel like they're all going to have 12 or 13 wins, all of them, and it'll just be tiebreakers. But he has got a shot at MVP, but there's some other players obviously playing really well as well. Round 4 then, you to pick first again. Where are you going?
Now we're getting really difficult, because we've got to go to the AFC, right? We've only got 2 AFC teams, and I feel like we're running out of kind of NFC playoff teams in a way. We've got to go. I don't really want to pick them in this game, but I've got so much respect for what they've done so far this season. Another division win yesterday, another division blowout yesterday. Know how to beat bad teams. The Colts, I feel like to pick them, because I do think that unless they collapse, which is a possibility, right? Because we just don't know any iteration about pressure with this team. Daniel Jones is going to be in pressured situations late on in the season. We've never seen him Now, if he goes into Kansas City in late November and wins that game, I'm all on then thinking, yeah, I think Indianapolis could definitely win a playoff game. But feels like I had to take him here because I think definitely going to get a home playoff game. I don't think that Jacksonville are have enough kind of consistency to catch up. So I think Indianapolis are going to have a home playoff game. The offense is humming. Jonathan Taylor, by the way, should be Offensive Player of the Year. If we stop the season now, he's ridiculous. He's having the season that's trending to be a little bit better than Saquon's was last season, which is absolutely mental because Saquon was just out of this world. And I don't think Jonathan Taylor's kind of getting that hype like Saquon was, but the offense is humming. Defense is really, really steady. They're beating the bad teams on this schedule, and I like them to win more games. They've got Steelers in Pittsburgh this week. Pittsburgh haven't beat a good team this season, even though they got 4 wins. So that, for me, is a really interesting game at 6 p.m. But that Chiefs game really looms in a few weeks to see where we really stand on Indianapolis. Could be they beat the Chiefs. It could be sat at 10-1.
Yeah, that's guaranteed 1 seed if they beat the Chiefs, and if the Chiefs have beaten the Bills by that point.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost wrapped up unless you just start losing games you definitely shouldn't be losing.
Yeah, no, agreed. Yeah, they're number 1 in the NFL in EPA. They are number 1 on offense. Yeah, and number 9 in defense. So top 10 defense. Number 1 offense at the moment. Playing really well. And then in terms of strength of schedule, this is where it's a bit different for them. They've actually got the 4th hardest. They've got a really difficult schedule to come. So again, we will know by the time if we did this exercise, maybe 2nd week of December, we'd know what's going to happen with this team because they're going to get a lot of battle tests in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, Jonathan Taylor, he's 2 touchdowns behind where Saquon finished last year, and then we're in week 8. He scored 3 weeks with 3 hat tricks now in touchdowns. Playing extremely well. Keep talking about Daniel Jones, but the offensive line's playing really well. The defensive line, which I think me and you have been a bit underwhelmed with. I think we have every year. We do the previews and we say our defensive line on paper looks really good, but these stars. It feels like this year, maybe there's still not a true star yet, but they're all playing another notch above them. Latu, Grover, DeForest Buckner, they're all playing. Quiddy Pay's got some sacks this year, so they're all playing really well. So yeah, I'm with you that I probably wouldn't have picked him here because of what you said.
Yeah,
I'm not going to fancy them to win many playoff games yet, but yeah, you guarantee them make the playoffs, and you guarantee probably a good shot at the buys to get you 2 points. So I think it makes sense. But yeah, they haven't got that quarterback that's proved that. Like, if you look at the ones we mentioned before, Hurts and Mahomes, of even in his first year in the playoffs, Matt Stafford, they've all proved it in big playoff games. So that's the final missing bit, isn't it, for this team?
That's it's going to be really tricky, why I don't mind them having a tough schedule on the way. When you look at it on paper, it's tough, but it's not a juggernaut. However, obviously, it still trends as the 4th hardest, doesn't it? You got like the Seahawks, 49ers, couple against the Jags, Texans, Chiefs in there. It's 2 against the Texans So it's not a juggernaut, but it's really tough. So I do think we're going to get a lot more data on Indianapolis. And maybe if we did this again in a month, you wouldn't draft them, but maybe you'd be thinking, may need to grab them 2nd overall here. But it's just all comes down to how the quarterback is going to play under pressure. He's never been under pressure in his career. He's played 1 playoff game, I believe.
2, wasn't it?
2, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, because they won, and then you beat them the week after.
And we put the belt on him the next week. So, yeah, it was... he's played 2 playoff games. However, they were not expected to win either, So we're going to be an expectation. So we're in uncharted territory.
That Chiefs game is going to get flexed Sunday Night Football, I'm telling you. That just feels like such a good opportunity for them to get the Colts into a primetime game. Because they haven't got many, because people didn't expect them to be as good as they are. My 4th pick then, I'm debating between 2 teams. Don't know where you're going to go with this one. They're back-to-back on my little stats chart I've got here. So I've got to go with easier conference, maybe. Well, my perceived easier conference in the playoffs. So I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I have 4 NFC teams, which means I have to pick an AFC team next. So if you take my AFC team, I'll be fuming. But I'll go with the Bucs. They're 10th in EPA across the NFL. The offense actually is not as good as people would think. People would think Baker, they'd think Bucky Irving, and they think they were top 3 or 4 in this list. They're not. They're middle of the pack on offense. I think that's why we were having some caution of around, okay, they've got a lot of injuries, but they're winning games. But if you actually look at the advanced stats, Baker was putting them in a lot of holes himself, that he was then getting them out in the fourth quarter, and everyone was focusing on the fourth quarter, but not the fact that maybe they kicked themselves in the foot for the first 3 quarters. And that shows on the numbers, because defensive EPA, they're top 4 in the NFL. Their defense is playing extremely well. Offense is still playing really well, but they've got to eliminate some of the fumbles, some of the turnovers, some of the penalties, and then also be a little bit better in the run game, which I think they will be when Bucky Irving and the offensive line get healthy. So yeah, I believe in them to win playoff games. Baker showed he can do it in the playoffs. The defense has showed they can do it in the playoffs. I think the NFC, you could get lucky with a couple of schedule games where, like you said, maybe the Rams or Lions knock each other off. Maybe the Packers or Eagles knock each other off, and then you've got a bit of an easier situation there if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then the division is a lot easier. They have the easiest schedule of all the teams we've spoken about so far, 23rd in the NFL. Yeah, that's my reasons. I think they'll be a playoff team. They'll win the division. I just fancy Baker to win a playoff game or 2.
Yeah, I think it's really important for them that with the way that it's probably going to shake out in the NFC, that they try at least go 2-3 seed this season and avoid a really tough game in the first round. I know they ended up playing Washington last year, didn't they? So it was just, but the schedule looks nice. It's really, what they've got left is kind of front loaded with the Pats, the Bills, the Rams. Everything after that, the last 6 games, you go in Cardinals, Saints, Falcons, Panthers, Dolphins, Panthers. That is how you want to end your season on a schedule. That, I'm sure when it comes to 6 weeks left, that'll be the number 1 schedule in the NFL, surely. But just, that's how you want to end it. Kind of split these next 3 games. I like them. Got to get healthy. Obviously, we're hoping that Mike Evans will be back kind of December time, or maybe it will just be back for the playoffs. Yeah, I like them. I think they can win a playoff game. I think they can get to the Super Bowl, to be honest, with the way that the NFC is kind of set up. I really do think that they can.
Yeah, I think that would be a fun team as well. I've heard a lot of people say, was it Colts Bucks would be the fun Super Bowl that everyone wants, apparently, and it'll be Eagles Chiefs that we get, and everyone which would be nice. Yeah, I had to go with the Bucks. It was a toss up between 2 teams, but yeah, I've gone with the Bucks. Last pick each then for the good teams before we do our 1 bad team pick. Who's your 5th and final team to round your roster out?
Round my roster. The Colts would have been a better pick here, I guess, because we're talking out loud. We've got a couple of NFC West teams that we could go for.
Yeah.
There is, of course, the looming Baltimore or Pittsburgh pick, which you could do. I can't have Pittsburgh. Ravens could be a cheeky kind of shout as my 5th pick. I'm not fully convinced that I would do that. I'm going to go for a bit of an injury hit team. I'm going to have the Chargers, right? Because I think Herbert is playing so well. I think Harbaugh is coaching for his life with the injury setup that it is, with the tackles and with kind of the pieces that they've had around that have been injured. I kind of like the schedule that's left. I trust Justin Herbert to go and win me. I think it's going to have to be on the road. I think it's going to have to be on the road, but I think I would trust Justin Herbert and John Harbaugh, the way that this is kind of set up, Jim, to go and win me a playoff game. So I'm happy-ish to round out my roster because, of course, there is another AFC West team that put it on Dallas yesterday. I don't think you're going to pick them, though, to be honest with you. But I'm going Chargers to round off just because I'd rather the head coach quarterback combination, I think, is the best left.
Yeah, I had 2 teams in the AFC to decide between, and you picked one of them. So I think I'm with you on that. The Chiefs or the Bills, let's just say in a perfect world, the Chiefs for me, the Chiefs win the division. But the Colts get the 1 seed. The Chiefs or Bills will not want Justin Herbert and Harbaugh coming in a wild game. They wouldn't want it. Obviously, they'd rather do that than not be in the playoffs. That's obvious, but there's plenty of other teams. They'd rather take a CJ Stroud. They'd rather take a Bo Nix. Do you know what I mean? They'd rather take Drake May, probably. They'd rather take Trevor Lawrence for sure. Maybe not Lamar, but, I just think, yeah, I just don't think you'd want to see Herbert and Harbaugh in a playoffs the way they're playing. So I think that's a great shout. They are actually, where are they? They are, yeah, they're 12th in the league in EPA, so just behind the Eagles. The offense is doing really well, top 6. Defense not so well, which I think we probably all suspect. And then the remaining strength of schedule is pretty difficult. It's 19th in the NFL. So
yeah, on paper it looked a little tricky, but it's a tough division this season, isn't it? So
yeah, the West games do a lot of heavy lifting, I think, for that schedule. So I think that's a good pick. Cool. My last pick then for the good teams. I'm going to stay in the AFC. You're right. I'm not going with that other AFC West team that I think are fraudulent, which could bite me in the arse in a few weeks. But I'm going to go for Drake May and the New England Patriots. I think they get to the playoffs, which is half the battle in this draft. And then can they win a playoff game? I think if the seeding went well, I'd be very surprised if the Denver Broncos beat any division winners on the road if they don't win the division in the playoffs. I would not be surprised if the Patriots beat probably any of them and one off. I do not think that the defense is good enough for them to win 2 or 3 in a row, but just to win one. Now you've taken the Chargers off the board. I think, yeah, when the quarterback's playing as well as he is, I think got a great chance. He's, top 4 in MVP. Best deep ball thrower by any metric this season in the NFL. The run game's not great, but Trayvon Henderson got some more snaps yesterday, so that might uptick a little bit. And I think Mike Vrabel makes good decisions in big moments in big games, which I think is half the battle of winning a playoff game. So yeah, I'll go for the Patriots. Bit of a fun pick there. I couldn't go for another NFC, and I just can't be having the Broncos. So really, it's do you trust Lamar and those guys to be in the playoffs? Because they're in the playoffs. His talent's enough to win any game. I think the Patriots are guaranteed in for me. Their schedule's a lot easier.
What I like about New England, I'm pretty sure that we said it about a month ago when we weren't sure. Since then, they've beat the Saints, Titans, and Browns. Okay, 3 pretty poor teams. However, they've handily beat all 3 teams. The rare remaining schedule has lots of teams that look like that on it. This team can win their division, definitely, because they've got a tiebreaker over the Bills already. So that leads me to think that is a good pick because, get in there. They may win the division and get a home playoff game. You've got Vrabel making great decisions. Drake May has clearly took what he had last season and taken that 2 steps forward already. You could argue that maybe he's better than Daniels and he's the best quarterback in that draft last year. That's going to be questions we talk about in the future, but I like your pick there. It was that or Baltimore, really, for me in my head, to be honest. Neither of us trust Denver, even though they're going to win the 15 games and win the Super Bowl, and we still won't trust them when they're 40-0 up in the Super Bowl. It's just, it's something about them. Yeah, I like the pick. I think there's solid all-round for New England.
Yeah, yesterday's performance, that was the best I've seen Denver look. So they're trending, but that's 1 week. I still saw them last week. They're like the luckiest team I've ever seen win an NFL games. I need to see a bit more, but I think in a couple of weeks I'll see them live with my own eyes whilst they're rushing for 200 yards on my team or something, probably. But there we go. Cool. We'll go through the rosters at the end when we've done the bad team. So it's me to pick first for our 6th team, which is a bad team. Now, again, you win points if you get the first overall pick in the draft. So that's the only way you can win a point. And we're only doing 1 each for the bad teams. So I can talk you through my thought process because I'm not going to spoil my next pick. Everyone in the world will be saying Titans. I think everyone will be saying Titans, Jets, States. Probably the team that people think. All those teams have relatively easy schedules. Does that mean anything for bad teams? That's kind of up to you to decide. But now, if you look at the hardest schedules and the teams that have bad records, the Cardinals are the 2nd hardest schedule. Can't quite get the Cardinals, but I was tempted. Next team in the middle, 14th, Titans. I was really tempted with the Titans. They're like my 1A or 1B. But I think I'm going to go with recency bias. I'm going to go with the team that's got the 9th hardest schedule in the entire NFL. They've got a head coach I don't think is going to be long for the job. I'm going to go for the Las Vegas Raiders to get the first overall pick.
Love that. That's a great pick.
It was them. I'm going to be honest. It was them or the Titans because the Titans are obviously 1 game behind in terms of wins, and they've got a relatively hard schedule. But the Jets' schedule is pretty good. The Saints' schedule is pretty good. I think I can see those teams winning 4 or 5 games somehow and not getting it. Was I think to get it, you've got to win 3, max 3. And I think the Raiders are like a max 3 team to me. So I'm going to go for the Raiders.
Yeah, I like that. That's cue a few firings, because cue a few firings, cue Gino. I mean, he feels like whether he's out of there or he's sat on the bench next season feels an absolute necessity. It'd been a disaster, really, overall, hasn't it? The Gino and the Pete Carroll thing. Kind of feel for Pete Carroll. Obviously, he's a legendary college and NFL head coach, so it's just a bit of a shame to see him in his 70s like this. But obviously, I've got love for the Raiders from the past, kind of love like a historic team, and I love the fans and that in the US. But yeah, this iteration of it's not happening, is it, at all? So I like your pick there. I like your thinking. And I think they're definitely going to go QB in the draft, because when you read the schedule out, you look at it on paper, might not win another game, to be honest with you, the way that they're looking. So it feels like they'll go QB, and I think they'll go new head coach as well next year. So it's just
me too. Where are you going then? Are you going with my team that I had my 1A, 1B Titans, or are you going off the board? Have you got another team in mind you're thinking they're going to have the first overall?
Do you know what? When we did this earlier, when you said this is what we was going to do, I was like, I am sticking with my prediction at the start of the season. And I said to you, I might be slightly wrong on this, but because he has looked okay, but Rattler and Tyler Shuck, right, is just a horrific quarterback room. I'm having the Saints. I'm not sure whether I'll actually get the point, but I'm sticking with my prediction for the start of the season and backing myself, because at the end of the season, they go Jets Titans around Christmas time in a row. I mean, that is just a wonderful piece of scheduling, by the way. This is how to make those games interesting, by playing games around them, right? So it's just like, well, somebody's got to win there, haven't they? Somebody has to win a game. But I'm going the Saints, mate. I feel for Kellen Moore, but you know what? Yesterday, I think what confirmed it for me was the pick six yesterday. Obviously, Rattler threw from his own end zone, but it wasn't the fact that he threw it. It was a really, really bad pick, but it was also Nelson. It was a good kind of catch out the air from it, but he also then stiff-armed him to the ground, and it's just the old feeling. Just one play can turn your whole season like that. And I just thought, oh man, go fetch Tyler Shuck, because that's not great, is it? But
bench as well. Heartbreaking for me, but he did get benched that game.
I know. Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think they're going to struggle to win games the rest of the season. So I'm backing what I said at the start, even though we've picked two teams and none of us have picked Tennessee. Is like we've never watched the sport before, because they are so bad, aren't they?
They are. I think they're going to be up there in the second or third overall pick. But I've got a feeling about the Raiders. I seem more confident the Jets will finish with like 4 or 5 wins, and it'll actually be annoying for them. Where they'll actually be like an annoying pick where they're like, oh, we have to trade up now if we want to.
Yeah, now we're 8th in the draft, and it's like,
Yeah, I feel like that's the way it will go, because that head coach will demand things and want to win games, whereas I'm not sure the Titans have got that in their locker now with the interim. I'm not sure Kellen Moore's got that in his locker. I don't think Gino and Pete have got that in them at the moment. So I don't think we've picked 2 bad picks there. But yeah, when it's Jets second overall and Titans first, we'll be kicking ourselves at the end of the season. But there we go. Cool. I'll read out our rosters then. So our good teams for you, it's Eagles, Bills, Packers, Colts, Chargers. With your bad team as the Saints. For my good teams, I've got the Lions, Chiefs, Rams, Bucks, Patriots, with the Raiders rounding out my roster. I'd say on paper, you've got the stronger lineup there. But I've got the greatest quarterback to ever live, who just goes to Super Bowls in his sleep, so that might make a bigger difference to me. So we'll see. And I've also got the king of spoiling wins at the moment, which is Geno Smith, who throws a pick every 5 seconds. So that might
you spoiled my joke there, because when you said the greatest quarterback to ever lived, I was going to say, well, less about Geno Smith and what about the other roster that you've got. But yeah, it's a shame, what's happening in with Geno and that, but he is not starting for anybody next season.
I listened to Heat the Core pod, and they were talking about could he get traded to the Vikings to play instead of JJ? And I'm like, he could, but how could you sell that to your owner after what we've seen so far this season? I'm not sure you could sell it to the owner, could you? Like, yeah, we're going to go trade for this quarterback. He's going to make it to the playoffs. Okay, cool. Who are you trading for? Well, you know that guy who leads the league in picks? Yeah, him. It's like, okay, yeah, no.
I just pulled the Vikings schedule up quickly. I'm shutting down any trades to improve our roster. It's very hard. With the way that they look, it's very hard. So yeah, even the defenses took a step back a little bit because they're doing so much heavy lifting. So yeah, that's going to be let's see what happens in the spring. I think they need to get JJ McCarthy out on the field.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. And they got a hard game next week as well. But yeah, we'll see what happens with the Vikings. Conveniently, did not come up in our picks today. Cool. Honorable mentions then, just quickly. So teams we didn't touch on. The Texans are actually sixth in the NFL and EPA. A lot of that is obviously the defense. We didn't pick them. We didn't pick the Broncos, so seventh again, mainly because that's your 1-2 on defense in the NFL. We didn't pick the Seahawks, who are your next NFC team. They are currently 12th. In the bad pick, the Titans are the worst in the NFL and EPA, obviously. The Raiders and Saints are third and fourth worst, so we're on the right lines. The 31st team, the second worst, is the Cincinnati Bengals, can I just say, who've got 3 wins. They're not going to have the first overall pick, but I don't think many people would know that they are only literally better than the Titans across both from an EPA perspective. So yeah, we'll see how right or wrong we are in a few weeks. But that's it for today's episode. Again, it's not really a week 8 review. It's a bit of a different feel for today's episode. But we hope everyone enjoyed it.
I mean, we could have spoke about the tush push 55 minutes instead, like everybody else, but we've avoided that, haven't we?
Also, I hate the tush push, and Patrick loves it, and his team beat my team in the Super Bowl, so I've got no bragging rights to talk about it on this podcast. We'll be back on Thursday to preview next week's slate of games. We've got some good ones. We've got Colts Steelers in the early window. We've got Broncos Texans in the early window. Vikings Lions will still be an entertaining game, regardless of who plays quarterback. We've also got Bills Chiefs in the 9:25. Seahawks Commanders on Sunday Night Football is a pretty good game. And then we've got an absolute disaster Monday Night Football of Cardinals Cowboys, which will still be fun to talk about and try and predict what the hell's going to happen in that game. But you can go follow us at Go42Pod on Twitter/X. You can also follow Patrick at MugsNFL for any of your Tyler Shutt items. Now he's an official NFL starter. I'm sure Patrick would love to get a Louisville Saints mix hoodie or something for them. But enjoy your weeks, everyone, and we will speak to you guys soon.
Yeah, speak to you soon.